Welcome to Everywaywoman. So it's time to buckle up and take charge. Face those imperfections. How do you do it, Cheryl?
Well, you know what? I'm fortunate to have been blessed with a very, very healthy dose of confidence. Mm-hmm. So, quite frankly, I don't let mine bother me all that much. A funny story I think of is, a while back, my ex-boyfriend and I, and he was my boyfriend at the time, we were, hanging out on the couch at my place, and we decided we wanted to go grab some dinner. And so we looked like, we left the house looking like we just came off the couch.
You were couch potatoes.
We were couch potatoes. And then we drove into town, and we saw this restaurant, the Gaucho Grill, and we decided, why don't we just go in? So we went in there knowing good and well we looked like crud, but we sat down and we had a meal. And since then, it became a tradition of ours to actually go back to that restaurant and intentionally look like crap. And it didn't matter because it's like,
Wait, hold on. She said she want to go to the restaurant and look like a bum. Where is this restaurant located?
Yeah.
Downtown Long Beach.
She didn't have a reservation.
She got no reservation. But look, I barely had shoes on.
I find it really interesting, though, because coming from the fashion industry as a model, where a lot of times these differences or these imperfections were celebrated as uniqueness. Mm-hmm. Their eyes are a little too close together. They've got this gap tooth, and all of a sudden they're exotic beauties. And for me and most of the women I know, we look at ourselves in the mirror and we think, something's wrong with me. I hate this. I got to change that. I wonder how much it costs for a nose job. How old do I have to be to start my Botox? I mean, I see everything that's wrong with me, and it's really hard to think that those are things that make me individual or that I should celebrate.
Well, I think sometimes that it starts with our parents and our brothers and our sisters, our siblings, and our family.
That's true.
Because growing up, I had a grandmother, and I loved her. I love her dearly. Now that she's gone.
That was a heavy thought. Now that she's gone.
I mean, God bless her soul.
Bless her, Grandma. Moving on.
Okay. But one of the things she used to say all the time is, as I was getting older, I have freckles. Mm-hmm. And I had them a lot as a kid. And she would look at me and go, ugh. And then she'd move on. And that was her thing.
We have a lot in common, Madison. Because my grandma used to tell me, I used to love popsicles and like ice cream sandwiches. And she'd be like, girl, you going to be as big as this house, girl. Because I have a big booty. Yes. And if I can get my booty sucked, I would. Just a little bit. Some people want to keep their stuff, but I would like to get mine sucked up a little bit. But she used to say, you keep eating those ice cream sandwiches, you're going to be as big as this house. And I was skinny as a toothpick. Right. I lived in San Francisco. I walked up hills and mountains. How fat was I going to get? Like, really?
The thing is, though, did it give you the complex? Were you worried about being imperfect in that?
As far as my booty,
I think it does. It plays with you a little bit.
I mean, now that I'm older, my daughter has she's 8 and she has a little pop belly, and I'm like, ooh, but I try not to make up a song or tell her not to eat popsicles. I really want her to enjoy herself.
Make up a song.
There was a mom. She used to make up a song like, ooh, that big belly, and so.
My niece does the same thing.
See, they get that when they get 8 years old.
Your niece does the same thing to you?
My niece does the same thing to me the other day. She's only 2.
And she was singing to your belly?
To my belly.
When
touching it, I'm like,
my son was about a year ago. And I'm a fit person. I consider myself to be extremely fit. And my son looked at me, and I had gotten a little chubby. I was kind of depressed. I had just started my divorce. And my son looked at me and touched my belly, and he goes, having another baby, Mommy.
You touched your belly?
Yeah, and he's going, you have another baby, Mommy? And I went, oh my gosh. Well, what am I going to do?
I think my whole point to my niece doing that to me, let's get real. I lost 160 pounds.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Obviously, thank you. But obviously, that was I have a lot of imperfections, and that's one of them because I still struggle with that. But at the same time, I can't be looking at all my imperfections. I've learned to embrace them.
Right.
And that is one of the reasons that I ended up, being on the cover of that magazine that I actually took. And I said, okay, because
you celebrated those curves as you should.
What's the stereotype of being on a cover? Skinny, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I
got
a corset on, and I got on.
I have a Coca-Cola body, but I would love for my hips and just my booty just to get. Maybe I'm still on that tip.
Right, you
just
are.
To get a little
Thank
firm,
you, Mom.
I want the muscle. I want muscle there.
You want a few less minutes in your hourglass?
Here's the thing. What do we
It jiggles sometimes, but I was teased.
But sometimes women look at. Generally speaking, they did a survey. Women look at what's attractive, and we tend to look at what's on the thin side, including our men. The men look at what's attractive. They tend to look on what's on the heavy side.
Right.
Men don't look at Cosmopolitan and go, that girl is hot. They look
That
at
is
Maxo.
true.
You know what I think is really interesting though
That's
in
true.
this conversation is that when we are referring to imperfections, we are all talking about our bodies. And that's really telling of where our focus is, because none of us have talked about our imperfections in, our habits or our personalities or our lifestyles.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't have any. I'm not speaking from
point.
experience. But
That's a good point.
But because it does start from the outside, because a lot of times what we feel on the inside is what we reflect and see on the outside. That's why we focus on the outside, because it's the easiest thing to hit first.
Thank you, Dr.
In terms of
Madison.
work.
It's like I'm in therapy right now. It's like they told me to look in the mirror, and and my therapist at one point did say that. He said, when you look in the mirror, what you're seeing when you see these imperfect reflections is really just what you're struggling and what you're fearing inside of you. And those are the imperfections that we have to deal with. That's the only way we're ever going to really embrace and love the perfection in our own perfection.
You know what? Now that I'm older, though, I don't really want to take that much ice cream sandwiches. Because now I know the outcome is my big butt.
I liked what Anna was saying earlier, because sometimes what can be perceived as an imperfection is what makes you beautiful.
Wow.
So it is kind of learning for yourself, because if we look at ourselves in pieces, we can all break each other apart and break ourselves apart. But what does it look like as a whole? And what does it feel like as a whole?
But if I was to look at myself and pinpoint at an imperfection that doesn't have to do with my looks, it would probably be that I'm too hard on myself.
Wow.
Too hard on myself.
we're
And
all
that's
too hard on
truthful.
ourselves.
And I had to have somebody here tell me that. So I realized that. It's like, oh man, she's right.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I did make a New Year's resolution to drive around with a clean car, inside and out.
Wow.
Not doing so well with that.
Well, thank you. We'll watch for your shiny car at the valet. We'll be right back.